I believe that Leon Edwards will defeat Kamaru Usman in their trilogy if it does happen. I predicted that Leon Edwards would win in their rematch at UFC 278. Now, I didn't predict that he was going to win the first, then lose all of the other rounds, and then come back in the 5th round to get a head kick KO with a minute left on the clock in some kind of movie scene scenario. But I did say that Leon Edwards was going to win the rematch, and I also believe that Leon Edwards is going to win the trilogy, and the rematch has made me way more confident about Leon Edwards in the trilogy, and that's what I'm going to talk about today. And at the end of this video, I'm going to talk about the fact that the trilogy, in my opinion, does create a lot of problems in the welterweight division, especially if Leon Edwards is going to wait around for Kamaru Usman to make that trilogy sometime next year, because they said they want to go back to the UK, sell out Wembley Arena, do a massive show over there. And if you're a lifelong UFC fan, and I say the words UFC London to you, and then ask you what month that's going to be in, you should say the month of March, because that seems to be their favourite month to go to the UK and go to London and sell out the O2 Arena. So if we're going to be waiting until March, that's a long time away. So it's a good amount of time for Kamaru Usman to recover from his KO loss to Leon Edwards. But I want to talk about why I believe Leon Edwards is going to win that trilogy. I noticed a lot of things at UFC 278 regarding the cardio of the people that competed at that event. And even before the card, people were mentioning to me, what about the altitude? Guru, what about the altitude? Have you thought about this? Kamaru Usman trains at Team Elevation, Guru. What about the altitude? And I was thinking to myself, Leon Edwards is smart enough. He's going to acclimatise himself. He's going to go there a couple of weeks before and get ready for it. And I started noticing on the card, everyone start to gas out. Even people that said that they went there early to get acclimated to the altitude of Salt Lake City, Utah. And I was thinking to myself, oh my God, have I made the wrong decision here? Is Leon Edwards, who thought he was going to sort of get himself acclimated to the altitude, is he going to start to gas out as the fight goes on? And he even did. He started to gas out as the fight went on. So much that in the second round, he genuinely looked like a completely different fighter than he did in the first round. Usman was the only guy on the entire card, I believe I can say this, because Merab Aldo was a very slow-paced fight, and it was just sort of Merab holding him against a cage. Usman was the only guy on the card who pushed a consistent pace over the 5 rounds, and he's also a guy who trains at Team Elevation. Why is it called Team Elevation? Because they train at elevation. They train at high altitude, and that's what their gym's known for, being able to push the cardio, to make people break in fights. They've got guys like Justin Gaethje, Corey Sandhagen, even Curtis Blades has shown tremendous improvement in terms of his cardio when it comes to fighting in the cage as a heavyweight as well. He can be a guy that pushes a pace on people, and you've got people like Kamaru Usman there as well. But I wanted to mention why I believe Leon Edwards wins, because this next fight will not be at altitude. And Edwards was slowing down in that fight. And I think that gives him a massive advantage. And I think it takes away a bit of an advantage from Kamaru Usman, who was prepared for that, and in my opinion, may have only taken the fight in Salt Lake City, Utah, because he knew he would have an advantage when it came to the altitude of the arena that they were fighting in. I feel as though that was a strong reason as to why Usman took the fight in that area of the world, in all honesty. Because why else would he want to go there? I remember when it first got announced, everyone was like, Utah? Utah? That's what everyone's reaction was. But I think Usman's reaction was, this is good for me. He ain't going to be ready for this, and I'm going to push a pace on him. And I feel as though if they're not at altitude, Leon Edwards is going to have a much bigger chance. I also want to mention that Usman got KO'd. Brutally, viciously KO'd. Edwards still hasn't been KO'd in his career, by the way. He got dropped badly by Brian Barberena, who caught him with like an uppercut, sort of that landed under the armpit of Leon Edwards and snuck up and hit him in the chin, and he still bounced back to win that fight by decision. And he also got caught by Nate Diaz in the 5th round as well, and that was a whole ordeal that people are now going to be talking about for a long time. Nate Diaz should be called the champion, like all this nonsense, because he landed one punch out of a 25-minute fight. Either way, I feel as though Usman's style And when he said in interviews before, I'm not going to get knocked out. I've got the iron chin. I'm going to break people. I'm going to push people beyond their limits. There's no way anyone's going to take me out. And all of this mindset stuff that he has going into a fight. I believe Usman is the type of fighter to be extremely damaged by a KO loss. If Israel Adesanya got KO'd, I genuinely don't believe it would affect his game that much. Because he's already a skittish, on the back foot fighter who keeps at range and fights like a guy who has just been KO'd 5 times in training anyway. Like, if you would have told me in, like, all of Adesanya's fights, oh, by the way, he got KO'd really badly in sparring in the build-up to this, I would understand the Yoel Romero fight. I would understand the Cannonier fight, the Whittaker rematch, the Vettori fight, you know what I mean? Because he fights in that way. So I don't think a KO loss would affect him. But when you're Kamaru Usman, and your job in a fight is to push forward into punishment and give it out afterwards, you will get beaten to a punch, but you must continue the combination afterwards and break people and push them up against a cage and put yourself in the firing line in order to be successful. And you tell me that that same person who has to do all of those things to succeed in an MMA fight has just been brutally KO'd for the first time in their career. And not just KO'd, like really badly, season up on the ground. I'm not going to trust that guy to follow that same game plan, which in many ways requires a certain level of unbreakable confidence to pull off. Edwards is a guy who fights like a guy who can be KO'd, and he knows he can be KO'd. He's been hurt before and fights really badly. But Usman fights like a guy who has a belief that there's no chance he'll ever be KO'd ever. And when he has to now go out there and follow a game plan of a Terminator, like if Piotr Jan gets flatline KO'd in his career, I'll really start thinking against picking him in the future. I could see that being an incredibly bad downfall of a career. If a guy like Piotr Jan gets viciously KO'd in his career, badly, and he starts to have to question himself, can I still take the same punishment? That's when I'll start worrying about a fighter. And Usman's one of those guys as well. And I think he can't have that doubt in his head going into a matchup against Leon Edwards, who already is a tough matchup for him. But now he knows Edwards has the ability to KO him. I also want to mention this. Edwards didn't flukily KO Usman. He really, really set it up well. Inside leg kicks, body kicks, lead leg side kicks to the thigh of Usman to try and hyperextend the knee. Body kicks in other ways. Knees to the body as well in certain moments when Usman came in. He was programming Usman the entire time to deal with the lower limbs of Leon Edwards crashing into Usman's legs and body. He did that the entire fight. I don't think he threw a single head kick until round 5. And in round 5, he went to the leg, faked the left hand, to the body, faked the left hand, level change, to the leg, faked the left hand head kick out of nowhere, KOs Usman. Leon's going to do that no matter what. When he fights Usman in this trilogy, he's going to be kicking to the legs, he's going to be kicking to the body. And I feel as though Usman in his mind, in the second fight, the fight they just had, was like, oh, he's trying to kick me to the body and legs. I'll have to deal with that. But now in a trilogy, he's going to be thinking, which one of these is the head kick then? I've studied the rematch. I saw how he set me up for that head kick. So every time Edwards kicks him to the legs and the body, there's going to be a second voice in his head saying, which one's the head kick? Anytime now. And that's going to be another play in his head. Now, you could say that Edwards is going to have an increased worry about Usman's grappling. I truly believe it's the opposite. I think he now knows he can stay safe on the ground, number one. He can work his way back up against a cage when it comes to Usman's grappling. And he can also deal with that grappling very well early on. And now Usman has to worry about Edwards shooting on him. I don't think Usman had a single thought in his mind going into that second fight that they just had at UFC 278 that was, watch out for the takedowns of Edwards. I don't think that at all. But in that first round, he got taken down, he got mounted, he got rear naked choked nearly. So he's now going to have to think about in the trilogy, watch out for that takedown. And that's a mindset he doesn't have to have. Accompany that with a less willing guy to try and push forward and put pressure on opponents because he's just been KO'd. I think we're going to see a much more hesitant Usman waiting for a perfect moment. And I think that's going to lead to Edwards being a lot more successful at range on the feet. And I also want to mention this as well. Edwards did very well in the grappling. I think he'll trust his cardio way more outside of altitude. He mentioned this after the fight. He said, oh my God, that altitude. I didn't know what was happening to me in that second round. I completely gassed out. I think he's going to do better. And I actually will predict Leon Edwards to win the second fight via decision 48-47 based on the first 3 rounds. I think is what's going to happen. I think Usman will win as the fight goes on, but Edwards will win the first 3 rounds and he'll have more ability to do so early on against Kamaru Usman, who's going to be a little bit more hesitant, a little bit less willing to try and push the pace on the feet. And also, I want to mention this about Leon Edwards as well. I'm about to make a second channel video breaking down these moments on the MMA Guru clips. Leon Edwards made so many silly mistakes in that second fight they had that just happened. So many silly mistakes. He fell over in round 1 and ended up on bottom and had to use all of his strength to kick Usman up off of him. He used a sweep. He had to get back up. He used a massive burst of energy early on to get Usman off of him. He gave Usman the first takedown, really. Usman tried to take him down. He went sort of down to one knee against the cage, got himself right back up. But then he fell over going for like a neck position, like he went for like a north-south, trying to get sort of control of the head of Usman, and he fell over and rolled to his back, and Usman ended up on top. That wasn't good for Leon Edwards. And that was a mistake that he made. I really doubt that happens again, because that's part of the nervousness of fighting the big pound-for-pound monster that you're not supposed to beat because you're a massive underdog. And this is your first time fighting for a world title. You've been inactive. You haven't been in the cage for a long time. Edwards will be more active come this fight with Usman again in the trilogy. That will remove those nerves a little bit more. He will also have experience fighting at a championship level. That will remove those nerves a little bit more. He will also have the knowing in his mind that he can beat this pound-for-pound monster in Kamaru Usman, which will reinforce his confidence going in, and I think will lead to less of those silly mistakes. Also in round 2, he literally stumbled his toe into the cage, got his foot hooked in the cage, and like stumbled over himself, and then went, oh my God, all the heart beating, the adrenaline pumping, and Usman started tearing into him with big combos, big body shot combos as well, that could have led to him slowing down as well, let's be real. Usman did work the body very well, but that was another silly mistake, stumbling over himself against a cage, like Jeremiah Wells at the start of his fight against Blood Diamond. The nerves kind of got to him there too. I think remove those 2 silly mistakes, he has a much better chance of controlling those early rounds. I also want to mention, he's young. Leon Edwards, and I know we ain't used to this with our champions nowadays because most champions in the UFC are 40. Let's be real. I don't know what's happened recently, but a lot of the champs are a lot older than they used to be, even though some of them act like they're 12. Leon Edwards is 30 years of age. He's going to turn 31 soon. He's not even in his prime. For a welterweight as well. This ain't like the bantamweight division here. He's got years left of his prime. And the one thing he was lacking was championship experience. And experience against the top level guys. He's going to improve more than Usman will improve. He also didn't take any damage against Usman. I noticed a slight swelling of the nose. No cuts. No busted eyes. No black eye. I mean, no black eyes, no swelling around the eyes, no swollen shut eyes, no cuts anywhere, no broken bones. He was partying afterwards. It's not like he's limping around everywhere. He didn't have a broken hand or anything like that. I truly believe Edwards can get right back in the gym. If he doesn't let this moment of fame absorb him and allow him to get a little bit complacent with doing interviews here, there, and everywhere, he can get right back in the gym, and I feel like he's going to because he didn't make that much money against Usman. He hasn't yet made his life-changing money, and he knows that. He'll make the money on the defenses. He'll make the money on defending against Kamaru Usman. He'll get a share of the pay-per-view. He'll get like a big increased paycheck on his contract. He'll secure a better contract moving forward in his career as well. He hasn't yet made that money, so I think he'll stay humble, get right back in the gym. Usman's going to have to be out of the gym for a long time after that KO. So I think his chances at massive improvement are diminished. Edwards will improve more now than Usman will over the next few months because of all those reasons. Plus, he's younger. Usman is 35 years of age. Took a lot of damage with that KO as well. If there's anyone more likely to come into the fight with injuries, it's Usman, being 35, soon to be 36 by the time they fight again. Very close to 36 by the time they fight again. I feel as though Edwards has got this one in the bag. I truly do. But yeah, that's my opinions on the whole situation. Thank you for watching this video. I also believe that they shouldn't do this next. In all honesty, I'd love to see the trilogy. But I feel as though this is bad for the welterweight division, because what you're going to end up doing is you've got a golden era of contenders. For a long time, Usman's held up the division, and they've said that he was lapping the division, when in reality, he wasn't lapping the division. And if you're an MMA fan, you know what I'm talking about. He was lapping half of the division. Covington, Masvidal, Burns. But there was another sort of half that were never getting their title shot. You know? Burns would lose the belt. No one would beat Burns to get a title shot. People would beat Nate Diaz to get a title shot. Masvidal would beat Nate Diaz. Time for his title shot. Time for 2. I know he took the first on short notice, but still, it is what it is. Time for 2 title shots for beating Nate Diaz. Hey, Leon Edwards just beat Nate Diaz. Time for a title shot. Hey, Covington beat Woodley on a 2-fight losing streak. Time for a title shot. You know what I mean? Where you had these other guys like Luque who also beat Woodley, but then would beat a top-level guy in Chiesa that would have no chance of getting the belt. Hamzat Chimaev should have arguably earned it by beating Gilbert Burns, if people are getting it by beating Nate Diaz. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a half of the division. Bilal Muhammad just beat, I don't even know how many in a row he's done now that are solid competition. Stephen Thompson, Vicente Luque, I believe he beat someone else as well. Damian Maia, when Maia was top 10, got himself into the top 10. Wonderboy was like number 5 or 6. He beat Wonderboy. Luque was number 3 or 4. He beat Luque. He arguably should get a title shot, but he's here fighting Sean Brady, and he still ain't going to get a title shot. He had a shirt on cage side saying, "I'm next." No, you ain't. This is the problem right now. We got all these contenders that should be getting shots, but the top guys don't want to fight them. So it's difficult. Covington's a big problem with that as well, sitting out until March, for fuck's sake. But that's Masvidal's fault, I guess, for attacking him from behind. Either way, I feel like it's bad for the division to wait this long. But in hindsight, maybe it'll be a good thing. Maybe we can get the winner of Chimaev Diaz, if it's Chimaev, to fight Covington next year in March on the same card. Chimaev's from Sweden. In the UK makes a bit of sense. You know what I'm saying? That could make some level of sense. And it'd be good to see Covington at Wembley as well, bringing that crowd atmosphere. And that way you'd have a replacement for the main event as well if anything happens. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Toodle pip, I'll see you later. Goodbye. I've got Leon Edwards in the trilogy. 48-47. Goodbye.